Can everyone see my screen?
Sure, it's okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Lex, for this nice introduction. I would also like to thank Doreen for organizing this event. I think it's very nice to have these discussions among us researchers in the field of research integrity. So Doreen, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I also want to like my colleagues from Leuven and in the Netherlands to attend this meeting and discussion. So today I'm going to talk about a little bit about my recent paper that has been published, and it's about the education and research integrity for PhD students in European universities. And I would like to start with, and I think you all will agree with me that there have been challenges for research integrity, and the most recent challenges are challenges related to COVID-19 related research. So there have been a rapid publication of COVID-19 related research on one hand, but on the other hand, there have been also a lot of retraction on in the prestigious journals such as New England Journal of Medicine, and this poses new challenges to us in the field of research integrity. Another challenge is a challenge that can be defined such as a changing research environment. The way we conduct research today is different from the way research has been conducted by RPIs, for example, 30 or 40 years ago. Today, PhD students work within consortiums, which involves different countries, different research groups, different cultures, and there have been a lot of pressures to publish and stay in academia. So this poses also new challenges and bigger challenges for research integrity. In addition, the frequency of FFP or serious cases of research misconduct, but also the minor cases such as questionable research practices, they still occur, and we need to educate our researchers how to conduct research more responsibly. So although there are many challenges in the modern science conduct, there is the responsibility to teach those the responsibility to teach good research practices is allocated to the research institutions. For example, if you look at the ALEA code, then you see that they say that research institutions develop appropriate and adequate training in ethics and research integrity. And I think the newly Netherlands Code of Conduct also emphasized this. So what I wanted to look, and my research team wanted to look at, okay, how is this research integrity training is implemented in practice by the European research institutions? And the objectives of our study was twofold. On one hand, we wanted to map the education research integrity and look at the practical implementation of trainings, such as delivery format, frequency, duration, timing, whether it is mandatory or optional, but also to look at who are the trainers or instructors of the face-to-face programs. On the other hand, we also wanted to look at the content of the training sessions. What kind of themes and topics do they address in their educational materials? So to answer our research questions, we focused on the LERU, and LERU stands for League of European Research Universities. It's an association of 23 members, and you can see here on the map, they are spread all over Europe. And the reason why we've chosen to work with LERU is threefold. So firstly, because doctoral training is a key part of their mission. Secondly, because they claim to be the leading European research universities, so they have also significant impact on research in Europe and abroad, and they also influence policy in Europe. And lastly, because as you can see, these universities are spread over 12 European countries, and they attract many international researchers. So we really wanted to investigate the education and research integrity for PhD students to this presumably heterogeneous group of researchers. To collect our data, we visited the official websites of targeted universities, and our inclusion criteria was to look at the university-wide educations and exclude some local initiatives from smaller initiatives by faculties, departments, or doctoral schools. And secondly, we also wanted to email those institutions to verify information that we have found on their official website by means of surveys. And to be honest, there was really little information on the official websites, and data was primarily collected by the information that was provided by the surveys with the host institutions. And then for the practical implementations of training, we simply calculated the approach used by each university. And for the content of the training sessions, well, we conducted an inductive content analysis on the content of the educational materials. So here I present some of our results. So as you can see, LERU is an association of 23 universities, and we were able to analyze educational resources from 11 of those universities. And here you can see the universities that are included in our study. So regarding the practical implementation of trainings, we first wanted to look at the delivery format. So what kind of format are the trainings provided? And we saw that 4 universities provided a face-to-face education, 3 universities provided an online training, and also 4 universities opt for a combination of face-to-face and online training. Regarding the frequency of the training, we found that universities organized a single training, meaning that the training was organized only once during the PhD trajectory, and none of the universities organized a continuous training throughout the PhD track. Regarding the duration of the training, we have found that 2 universities organized education of less than 3 hours, so meaning it was less than half a day. 4 universities had a training between 3 and 4 hours, so a full day. But we also found that 5 universities had a training of more than 8 hours, so meaning it was more than 1 full day, and the maximum amount was, I think, 27 hours. And then regarding the timing of the trainings, we found that 5 universities specified a specific timing when the training should be taken, and 4 universities did not give specific time, so they were allowed to attend the course within the 4 hours of their PhD track. And 2 universities, they specified timing for their mandatory course, but not for the optional. And the specific timing when the course should be taken was prior to the early stage assessment at 9 months, in the 1st or 2nd year of the PhD. And some universities even said, well, the students had to follow the course to pass successfully the registration in the 3rd year of the PhD. Regarding the compulsory or optional format, we found that, well, 5 universities, so nearly half of our university study, they chose for a compulsory, meaning mandatory education and research integrity. 4 universities opt for optional training, and 2 universities had a combination between compulsory education, but also some optional training that they could follow in case of interest. And regarding the optional training, we also found that universities stated that when the course was optional, they had they had only limited amount of registrations for the course. And then there were 8 face-to-face programs, and then we also asked the universities, okay, so who were the teachers, who are the instructors of those research integrity course that you are organizing? And we found that 7 universities, they had an in-house instructors, and only 1 university had a not in-house instructors. And in-house instructors were academic staff, such as professors, but also associate and assistant professors and research associates, but also legal advisors, specialized staff within the library, and even research integrity officers themselves. So this was regarding the practical implementations, and now I'm going to present some results about the content, about the themes and topics that they handle in these courses. So of course, courses mainly focused on research integrity, and first of all, they discuss why is it important to look at research integrity and to have this course for young researchers. Some of the reasons that have been given by the universities in the training courses was that, well, research integrity contributes to more trustworthy knowledge, also to the research quality, but also when you conduct research with integrity, it safeguards against research misconduct claims. Then courses also emphasized some of the ways that we can strengthen research integrity, and there the roles were allocated, first of all, to the research institutions, but also on the individual researcher. Regarding the role of academic institutions, we found that, first of all, they made a lot of guidelines on good research practices, but they also developed procedures on how to handle research integrity breaches, and designating a confidential advisor for research integrity accusations. And also some universities emphasize that it is really important to also update those documents within the institution. Some of the roles that were allocated to the individual researchers were adherence to research integrity principles. And as you can see here on the top of the list, transparency and openness are at the top of the list. And I think this is good news, given the increased emphasis that we put nowadays on open science practices and open research methods, open research labs, and so on. So yeah. So next to research integrity, courses also discussed and talk about research misconduct. In the first place, educational researchers, educational resources emphasized what research misconduct means, and they describe what fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism are, but also questionable research practices. And one of the main topics that were addressed within the questionable research practices were inadequate authorship, such as including someone or excluding someone who had significantly contributed to the research, but also inappropriate publications, such as submitting your work to 2 journals simultaneously, duplicate publication, but also salami slicing, meaning that you cut your research in smaller pieces and have more publications at the end of the road. And an interesting finding here was that unintentional plagiarism was interpreted differently by the different universities. One university found that unintentional plagiarism constitutes to poor research practice, but other universities, they emphasize that unintentional plagiarism is still plagiarism, and it's a major breach of research integrity. Then educational materials also emphasized why is it important to focus on research misconduct.
Waarom ging jij zelf niet? Please go
Yeah.
on. There is some disturbance, but just ignore it.
Okay. So they also emphasized that why is it important to teach research misconduct to young researchers, and educational materials emphasize the history of misconduct by discussing some famous cases or serious cases of research misconduct, but also the new developments it brought along, such as definition or a new definition of research misconduct or new procedures for how to handle them. They also, during the course, universities also allocated time to incidence rate of misconduct, but also impact. For example, that it occurred in all areas of science and in all stages of academic career. And the impact was divided in 4 factors, such as impact for society, such as trust in research, in science, but also scholarly impact, for example, the reputation of researchers, but also the research institutions, personal and financial implications in case research misconduct was proven. Yeah. And then some of the factors that was discussed in research integrity and why does research misconduct occur were divided in 3 factors, individual factors, such as personality traits, but also personal motivations, such as drive for success, drive for status, drive for more publications, but also institutional climate was emphasized, such as power imbalance and also precarious position of PhD researchers comparing to their PIs. Another factor in research misconduct is the whole research ecosystem, the way that we conduct research today and the competition for grants and positions, and mostly they are very limited, and this was acknowledged during the training that they also pose significant challenges to the research integrity and the way research misconduct might occur. Then the courses also emphasized how research misconduct can be detected, and some of examples were, for example, using a text comparison software, such as Turnitin, for example, to find some comparison between your text and other sources to detect plagiarism mainly, but also peer review, replication studies, detecting misconduct by whistleblower, but also the pop peer or the post-publication peer review. And then educational resources also emphasized how research misconduct can be prevented. And many universities, the majority of universities stated that to prevent research misconduct, we should organize training in research integrity, but they immediately also acknowledge that besides providing education and research integrity, there should be training, a rigorous complementary training in research methodology and statistics. Another factor was focused on institutional culture of integrity, or to have more open institutional climate and culture of integrity, where you can openly discuss issues with your supervisor or within your research lab. Also, the research system can do better, and there were some emphasis on slow science manifesto to slow the pressure or publish of science. And also a minority of universities also said when we see that there is an effective response to proven misconduct, well, that prevent actually future incidents of minor or major misbehaviors. So I think I will leave some time for discussion, but I would like to conclude with a few statements. First of all, we found that very a limited number of universities, and almost half, they developed university-wide education and research integrity for PhD students. although universities have a duty of care to promote research integrity, but we in practice, in theory, they are responsible for organizing events, but in practice we see that it is not been implemented in every university in Europe. Secondly, so information on training and especially on the content of the course. Well, it was really difficult to find that information on official websites, and I think it's a well-kept secret, or either we had not an access to the university, the intranet page, so possibly the information was available for the staff only. Then regarding our content of the trainings and the practical implementations, we see that there was substantial variations between the countries, between the universities. But a nice finding of our study was that one of my colleagues, Naomi Oberbon, she did a research on LERU guidelines on research integrity and misconduct. And we found that the topics that were covered in guidelines, they were also addressed in the educational resources that were provided by the university. So although guidelines are mostly aspirational, we found that there's been some application of that guidelines in the form of formalized research integrity education. So that was a nice finding of our study. So yeah, I want to thank the members of the LERU for contributing to my research, and thank you for you all.
Well, thank you very much, Shila. Maybe stop screen sharing.
Yes.